6 months ago, Priya's team had a 75% turnover rate. In 6 months, she lost 9 out of 12 people. Her VP called her in and said, "Do you know what this is costing us? $680,000 in replacement costs. Plus lost productivity. Plus knowledge drain." Priya thought she was doing everything right. She was responsive. She was available. She worked hard. But when HR did exit interviews, here's what they heard: "I never knew where I stood. Priorities changed constantly with no explanation. When things went wrong, I didn't know if I'd get blamed. I couldn't trust what my leader said." Your team should not be carrying the emotional weight of your leadership. Not your stress. Not your uncertainty. Not your unmade decisions. Not your avoidance. When leaders don't take responsibility for their impact, the team becomes the shock absorber. And that's the opposite of psychological safety. But here's what most executives don't understand: this isn't just a people problem. This is a profit problem. Priya's team wasn't leaving because the work was hard. They were leaving because the environment was unstable. Priya would commit to things in team meetings and then not follow through. She'd shift priorities without explanation. She'd avoid hard conversations. When mistakes happened, her team couldn't tell if she'd have their back or throw them under the bus. Psychological safety isn't about being nice. It's not about being soft. It's not about avoiding conflict. Psychological safety is built when leaders take responsibility for their decisions, their communication, their follow-through, their emotional tone, and the environment they create. When leaders own their impact, teams feel safe. When leaders avoid their impact, teams feel anxious. And anxiety is expensive. After Priya's VP confronted her about the turnover costs, she sat down with HR and asked, "What is this actually costing us?" Here's what they found: Priya's team had the highest rate of stress-related health claims in the division. Burnout, anxiety, stress leave. The company's healthcare costs for her team were 40% higher than comparable teams. When people feel unsafe, their nervous system stays in fight or flight. Stress increases. Burnout increases. Health issues increase. And all of that shows up in healthcare claims, disability leaves, and absenteeism. Wellness isn't a perk. It's a financial strategy. Priya's team also had the lowest engagement scores. They weren't speaking up in meetings. They weren't taking initiative. They were playing it safe, doing the minimum required. Research shows psychological safety is the #1 predictor of high-performing teams. Not talent. Not tenure. Not headcount. When people feel safe to speak up, ask questions, and take initiative, engagement skyrockets. And engaged employees don't just work harder, they solve problems faster, they innovate more, they collaborate better. That's productivity. That's efficiency. That's margin. Then there was the $680,000 in replacement costs. But it wasn't just the recruiting fees. It was the knowledge that walked out the door. It was the time spent onboarding replacements. It was the relationships with clients that got disrupted. Replacing an employee costs 1.5 to 2 times their salary. People don't leave because of the work. They leave because of the environment. When leaders are accountable and teams feel safe, retention stabilizes. That stability shows up directly in revenue. Finally, Priya's team was slow. Not because they weren't capable, but because they were spending half their energy navigating confusion. What does she really want? Is this still the priority? If I speak up, will I get in trouble? High-trust teams don't waste time on that. They execute. They deliver. They innovate. And that operational clarity? It improves margins. It improves customer experience. It improves revenue. Priya's VP told her psychological safety isn't soft. It's strategic. And you need to figure it out. So she did. How Priya rebuilt psychological safety? 5 shifts that cut turnover to 0. Shift 1. She got crystal clear on expectations. The first thing Priya did. She stopped assuming people knew what success looked like. In her next team meeting, she said, "Here are our 3 priorities for this quarter. Here's what success looks like for each. Here's how I'll measure it." Then she asked, "What questions do you have?" Ambiguity is the enemy of safety. Clarity is the antidote. Shift 2. She followed through, or explained why she couldn't. Next, Priya looked at her commitments. She'd been saying yes to everything and delivering on nothing. She started saying, "I'll get you that answer by Friday." And on Friday, she delivered. Or if she couldn't, she sent a message Thursday saying, "I'm not going to hit Friday. Here's why. New target is Tuesday. Do what you say you'll do every time you can. And when you can't, communicate early." Shift 3. She explained the why. Priya also stopped making mysterious decisions. When priorities shifted, she didn't just announce the change. She explained, "Here's why we're pivoting. Here's the context from leadership. Here's what it means for our roadmap." People don't need perfection, they need context. Transparent decision-making removes the guesswork. Shift 4. She owned her mistakes. One day, Priya made a bad call on a project strategy. Old Priya would have deflected or blamed the team. New Priya said, "I made the wrong call. That will last us for 2 weeks. I'm sorry. Here's what I'm learning from it, and here's how I'll approach it differently next time." When you make a mistake, own it. Repair builds trust faster than perfection ever will. Shift 5. She regulated her own emotions. Finally, Priya realized her team was spending energy managing her mood. If she was stressed, they'd go quiet. If she was frustrated, they'd avoid her. She started noticing when she was the source of tension. And she'd say, "I'm stressed about the board meeting. That's my thing to manage." It's not about your work. Your team shouldn't have to manage your mood. Your emotional tone sets the climate. Give leaders a self-reflection tool. 6 months after making these changes, Priya's team turnover 0. Engagement scores up 60%. Healthcare costs down to normal levels. Project delivery speed 30% faster. Her VP told her, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Your team is different now." Here's what Priya learned and what I want you to remember. Your team is always responding to your behavior. If your team is anxious, look at your clarity. If your team is disengaged, look at your consistency. If your team is confused, look at your communication. If your team is burned out, look at your boundaries. This isn't blame. This is leadership. Give them a starting point. You can't control the economy. You can't control the market. You can't control corporate decisions. But you can control how you communicate, how you show up, how you follow through, how you repair, how you lead. Psychological safety isn't a perk. It's not optional. It's not a nice to have. It's the foundation of trust, performance, creativity, and retention. And it starts with you not being perfect, but being accountable. That's what real leadership looks like. Strong, actionable, Subscribe for more content like this, content that helps you lead with impact and build teams that actually stay. And tell me in the comments, what's one leadership behavior that instantly builds trust for you? I'm reading every single one. You're not a line item. You're the talent.